Listen, Joey, do you love me?
No.
Will you calm down?
No.
I thought you loved me.
No.
I thought we had something.
No.
Skip it up and that up.
Every week I wake up and I go, what time is it? What time is it, Joey? DKOldies time?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, it is, Joey. We're back again with another episode of DKOldies is Trash. This time we're going to watch Jacob R's video. Not the whole thing, but I'm going to show you some of the clips of the interview he did with a former staff member from DKOldies. Now, you're probably wondering, Jay, why are you so good looking? That's genes. That has to do with my parents. But you're also wondering, why are you speaking about retro game stores? Well, I can be honest with you, or I could lie and say that I own 6 stores. I don't. I worked at a store, though, for many, many years. In downtown Toronto, there's a place called ANC Games. They're the biggest retro game store essentially in Ontario, Canada, and the Toronto area. I worked there for about 3 years as a manager. I've done everything that DKOldies has done in terms of dealing with staff, dealing with inventory, dealing with refurbished consoles, dealing with cleaning, all of that stuff. So I know the ins and outs of that industry. I also worked at GameStop as a manager. If you've watched this channel, you've probably seen my interview in the past. It's one of Rich's biggest interviews. Again, that's because I'm handsome and he's handsome and it's 2 handsome men. I don't have any birds here to kiss, but you get the point. The other reason I can talk about this is because Blockbuster, before it shut down, hired me to open up sort of a game division they were doing called Game Rush, and that really went well because no one's heard of it. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So Jacob R kind of did 2 videos here. He took the highlights from the interview, plop that first. That's what I'm going to kind of be reacting to. The shout out, though, has to go to him because there's an hour interview. I'll put a link to that down in the description as well. Go check out his channel, check out his beard. If he had birds on the set, they'd be luscious. Love you, Jacob. Love your beard. Love the way you move on camera. So let's find out if DKOldies is as scummy as we think it is. Jacob, take it away with your beard. Rub your beard on my chest.
Now let's go ahead and get into the interview. And first, I want to show you a clip from the interview of him talking about DKOldies and their third-party cords and their third-party controllers.
So I remember what we would tell people, because especially like over the phone stuff, you're telling people that if they were a collector that was really concerned about that, and they called in and were like, hey, or even emailed and said, hey, I want to make sure this has original cords, or even in like a replacement, because that would happen. Somebody would get like those third-party cables, and then they would get upset because they're like, well, this isn't working with third-party cables. We'd say, hey, we'll replace you, free of charge, with the original cables.
He's admitting here essentially that they've made mistakes and given people third party when they're supposed to get first party, and mistakes across the board. This leads me to believe right off the bat that this is coming from higher up. This is not the employees making the mistakes so much as there's nobody in this store that has set essentially the rules, a moral standard. I think it's pathetic, to be honest. You've got somebody who owns this store who's just going out there trying to make every single dollar and, only fixing situations when people bring them up. That's really scummy.
Now let's hear a little bit more from him about communication, third-party cords, and third-party controllers.
Unless I walk up to a person and say, hey, this order needs to have original cables, that might not happen. So usually using that notes filter would help, because there is a supervisor in that shipping department that has to kind of look at the order to make sure everything was done correctly before it even gets shipped out. I think that's a big thing. I know the controller thing is kind of, again, based on if we have it available, but I think the genuine idea of that is that they want you to pay more for that original controller because they know that you want an original controller.
I gotta reiterate again that they're making you pay more money for the original controllers, which is not the end of the world. The problem is it says refurbished, and it's also extremely expensive to get a package that's all first party. And for people that, again, don't understand what they're doing online and they're just buying it as a gift, they're instantly going to get the third party. And when that shows up, you're going to have to deal with controllers breaking. Even in this interview, the employee admits that Xbox controllers, I believe he says the 360 controllers, they're terrible. The third party is just terrible for that. So you're dealing with these situations that only arise when people complain? And you have different staff members who have no idea what's going on. There's no structure within the company. We'll talk about Joey in a second here, but it just seems like a goddamn mess.
Now let's hear a little bit more about third-party controllers.
That is touching back on what I said about the just kind of replacing the stuff. I will tell you 100%, I hate the 360 and like PS2 or PS3 third-party controllers. I know that they're just not good controllers, so I would go out of my way to go through. You may have seen in like their videos, they have those like walls of just like boxes full of the controllers and stuff. I would go out of my way to grab like, you know, try to put that third party thing back and grab an original, because I just knew that it's not, because I don't think they had an option for like 360 for a while.
Again, he's admitting that the staff essentially know the difference between a good and a bad controller. That means that everybody in the company is under that same impression. So this is not a major issue within the company. ANC Games did the exact same thing in terms of offering first-party and third-party controllers. And when you buy like an N64, it would come with 2 pre-packaged third-party controllers. However, we made sure those controllers weren't random, and we made sure that they were brand new third-party controllers that had a high rating. We never gave broken third-party controllers or even used broken controllers. We always gave brand new third-party Super Nintendo and N64 controllers with the orders. And people love those controllers because those were as close as you can get for a lot less money, but as close as you can get to the first party. So in this interview, they're essentially admitting that they're going out of their way sometimes to dig out controllers from bins. Like he said, you could see it along the walls. He's saying that he'd go into the back room or whatever and try to find first party controllers for certain orders. Every staff member there should be doing the exact same thing. Not one customer gets third party, one gets first party, and all this nonsense. I don't know why there's a mix-up. Again, it's coming from the top down. There's no structure. There's no guidance. It's clear as day.
So let's see what he has to say about refurbishing. And this first part is more along the lines of repairing and refurbishing, and then we'll get even deeper into the cleaning and refurbishing.
This is an interesting one, I will say, because I know where people would have contacted and been like, hey, this is something that I got. It's not working. I think the biggest example that I can remember is like the 72-pin connectors for the NES. I know that they replaced them at DKOldies, and I know that's a thing that you know, you got to communicate. So I think that it's very much something where nobody's communicating to a certain department, maybe, or just, I don't want to say that they don't care, because I know that there are people there that do care about this stuff and care about what's going out, because they know stuff like this where, you know, people are making videos on it. It's not like, I don't think it's a thing where they're like, well, if this is getting, you know, press is press. I don't think that's the situation. I think the refurbishment process, as much as I don't want to say I've seen like anything of it, but I don't want to say I've seen everything. I know that the cleaning process is a big thing, but I know that when we would do this, it would always be kind of trying to get it to the repairs department, but it would have to be when somebody that was able to repair said system was there, and not all the time is somebody there to repair it. So then you're waiting for that person, you're waiting for this, you're waiting for communication back. So I think, again, coming back to it, it's just communication issues. So I think if they can figure out a way to like get those communication issues fixed, I think probably a lot more refurbishing stuff will get done.
Well, here we go. The refurbish process. Yeah, we knew this already. We already opened up 3 different consoles on our show alone, and all 3 of them were never opened up. So they're essentially admitting later in the video, but I'll kind of get to it now, that they're not opening up any of the consoles unless they hear something rattling, or they hear that it's maybe making a weird sound when you turn it on. But then again, it's only getting refurbished when the employee who can actually refurbish it is in the store. Now, going back to ANC Games where I worked, that was a retro store, we never, ever said any of our products were refurbished. We once in a while would fix something in a console that was, damaged to the point where the console did not turn on. We would note that. We would say that we've replaced the CD drive and this is the price on it. We wouldn't jack it through the roof and say, oh, this is refurbished. We would say that it was essentially fixed. That was a lot of work. So imagine the amount of staff they would need to actually refurbish these things. It would be lunacy. He also is saying that there's not much communication between the different departments, which is lunacy because that's how a retro game store has to work. There's different departments. You have front cash, you have sales, you have the cleaning department, you have the testing department, you have the online department, the shipping. You have all of these departments that have to work in tune with each other. Or guess what happens? The train goes off the rails and you lose track of your business. There's something I want to bring up right now in this video, and it's called customer retention. I do that because I'm a lunatic having a stroke, but if you're in sales, there's something called customer retention. The idea is quite simple. When you are essentially selling an old system, where are they going to buy their games, DKOldies? Let's think about that. They've bought a Super Nintendo from you, and you've sent them junk third-party controllers and crappy wires. Are they going to come back to you to buy all their Super Nintendo games now? Probably not. That was a terrible experience. Why would I go back to DKOldies? It's about customer retention. The idea is that if you have 10 people walk into the store, you want to please them all, and not that way. I know what you're thinking out there, but I mean that you want to give them a console that's not only clean, but clean enough to work. Not get home like we did with the Xbox and have the disk drive randomly work. Now it's not working. That's not how you keep the retention up for your customers. So that, again, is a disaster.
Consoles are only open to be cleaned out if they have a problem. Like if a Wii has a broken disk drive, then they'll open it up, fix it, and then while they're in there, they'll blow it out. But otherwise, they don't open the consoles up, even though they say they do. So let's hear what he has to say.
I would say yes, because this is another thing too where it comes back to that, like the cleaning department, is if they don't really see that dust kind of like caked inside of like the vents or anything, they're not going to look at it. When I was there, I always would, like, if you heard a rattle or anything, you were supposed to obviously open it up and get that out of there. So you should see any like dust or anything that's just wrong there. I don't know if that's changed, if it's just kind of like to keep processes going because of how many orders or they're getting or stuff like that. But it seems like it's one of those things where I'm like, I remember personally just being like, okay, this seems like it needs blown out. And they don't, in that cleaning department, have like a dust gun or anything like that, so they can't just dust gun it. But the repairs department would have the tools to do that kind of stuff.
No one's opening the consoles unless there's major issues involved with the consoles. So there's sounds when you're shaking it, it's not turning on, or it's not reading discs. They don't open the systems. It's clear as day now. They just don't open the systems unless there's major issues, and when there's major issues, they might clean it. At this point, I'm like Rich. I'm baffled. How is this happening? Why is it happening? I got a clear answer to why, but I'll get to that at the end of the video.
This company is not owned by Joey. He's just the social media manager. So you would think he runs everything with social media, but from talking to the former employee, it seems that Joey is not really in control of what you think he is. Let's hear about it.
I would say that the owner is kind of more in control of it, even though Joey is a social media like manager. Any ideas kind of have to go through the owner first before it can even be kind of done, which I understand to an extent. But I think when you are a social media manager, you are supposed to make the call of what's going to be said or done.
Yeah.
I don't think I think the owner should kind of pull back on that kind of part and kind of let the social media team do what they need to do. I don't think that any ideas or kind of agenda should be pushed through the owner because, oh, this is happening, now make this video. Because I can definitely see that's why the refurbishing video that came out a while back happened. Because it's just kind of like, oh, well, this person on YouTube's talking about this. Make a video. Quick, make a video to kind of save face. And that's, I don't think that's fair, because it could easily have just been, and I do understand that it should be addressed, but it could easily have been ignored, or it could have easily been a, hey, mistakes happen. Let's start further improving, and then make the video saying we're going to start, instead of saying We've been doing this the whole time.
All right, so finally we get to talk about Joey. Joey is clearly just a social media manager. If you think that he's actually back there like dancing around like Leave It to Beaver, throwing consoles and boxes from across the room and like slapping his tits, it's not happening. His job sounds like, based on this interview, is simply put, make videos that are you trying to be Leave It to Beaver and joyful, and it works. You know why it works? Because TikTok is a massive platform. They blew up on TikTok. When you get a lot of people that have no idea about the retro gaming community, and you have somebody like Joey who is clearly putting it on for the camera, and nothing against Joey, I should say that right now. I think he's doing an listen, he got the channel to be exploding on TikTok. I'll explode on Rich. But he got the channel to be massive. There's a reason for that. He's got that charisma, that sort of like, I'm turning it on now. If you watch some of his videos, you'll notice he starts out sort of, and he'll be like, is DKOldies a scam? No. You know, it's like, you see through that, Joey. We know. The people that know, they know, you know? So again, really nothing against Joey here, but it's kind of clear as day that Joey is not really doing anything bad here except the social media. And I wouldn't even say that is bad. I would say that Joey is sort of in the crosshairs of everybody at the moment because he's the on-screen personality, when realistically it's more coming down to the owner and less about Joey. So Joey, I love your wig. It's blonde. I want you to take it off and mop my floor and then get in bed with me, allegedly.
Now let's hear a little bit more about what this former employee has to say about the owner.
I think at this point it's kind of like, okay, I can just come in whenever because I'm the owner, which, again, understood. But I do know that like it was kind of watching over what everybody did in social media to make sure everything was done the way it needed to be done and things like that. I think that was a big component, making sure what people were doing, what people were saying there, and that can be a big problem, especially when you're just you're doing what you're told, but then you're told do more of this instead. Flip-flopping on ideas, and I think from when I was there, I remember just kind of being lost in some of that because it was always like, well, this idea doesn't make sense, but then it would become something that was a trend, or it was something that was really like popular, and then we're like, he wants us to do this, but I said this last week, let's do that. So it was always kind of one of those things where it is definitely somebody out of touch with what's going on, and that causes problems. And then it would always be just make this, make that, do this instead. And I'm like, okay. But I do think that is a component to the comments and stuff too. Is I know recently there was one about somebody being jealous of our success kind of thing, and I was like, that doesn't sound like anybody in social media, because they would easily get in trouble for doing something like that.
All right, so he's essentially admitting that the owner is coming and going as he pleases. I've dealt with that in the past for sure. I had, a district manager who would show up randomly and just disappear into the mist like it was a Elden Ring level. But saying that, I feel like this is starting to really, like the clouds are parting. We're starting to really understand what's really going on at DKOldies. So at the end of the day, how long can DKOldies continue this train wreck? It feels like the front of the train has derailed long ago, and cars are just piling up, and Joey is just blonde, screaming about refurbishing Wii's, while the owner is coming in randomly and saying, make sure the social media is perfect. We need to check it right now. Who said what? Delete that comment, when he should be paying attention to his staff and all of the customers. Again, I'm going to leave it at this. Customer retention. So please look that up, DKOldies. You'll learn a lot about business if you just look up that simple phrase. We've also learned that they really have no moral ground to stand on. This is a company that would rather pay attention to their social media than take care of a customer who might not know anything about the retro market. I think that is shady and pathetic. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. I'll definitely be back this week with some more news videos, and probably, because we all know this is now Review DKOldies USA, I'll have another DKOldies video Probably this week. It depends if somebody opens up like a goddamn Wii U and finds a rat head. If that happens, then I'm flying down there and I'm gonna I got nothing. I got nothing for this. Love the way you guys move, all of you.